Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, brother, for getting us started nicely this morning. Inshallah, I'd like to share with you just some continuation of those thoughts. Of course, if we look into our Islamic tradition, we will find many beautiful examples of planning. The prophets planned, the Sahabas contemplated their futures, but all of them, especially our Sahabas, we see that before they even entered into the marketplace, they would understand the fiqh of transactions. They were so fearful that they may go into the marketplace and they may make a mistake. They may create some transaction that will eliminate the barakah from their wealth. And this is, I think, a story or a kind of a lesson that we all need to take today. We definitely live in different times. We definitely have different challenges when we enter our marketplaces. They may not look as familiar as a stall. It may be something that looks more complicated, a stock, a future, a commodity, all of this terminology. But ultimately, alhamdulillah, we have a lot of wisdom that we really should benefit from. So of course, also when we talk about money, we're not talking about money as an end. Money is simply a means. And chasing investments is something we also have to be very careful about. If I have a car parked outside and I told you, this is the fastest car you'll ever get in, would you get in it? Would you get in it if I didn't tell you where that car was going? Similarly, when you think about financial planning, you also have to think, where ultimately is this going to take me? What are my goals? So as Muslims, we really have to think about how can we empower ourselves to take care of our families, take care of us, our own retirements, and then ultimately, how can we take care of our communities in a way that's going to be sustainable? So I want to share a few ideas with you as a financial planner on how you can think about your wealth. So first of all, when you're starting, start with a plan. Be smart. By smart, S stands for specific. Have a specific goal. Have it clearly defined and have it clearly described. If you don't know what you want, how are you going to get it? Make sure your goal is measurable. You might say, oh, I'd like to, by the time I retire, I want to have enough to take care of me. How do you measure that? Does that mean that you're going to need $100,000 every year by the time you're 65, all the way until you're 95? How are you going to measure that? Is it attainable? Meaning, is it realistic and reachable? Is it something that really within your means you can actually reach? Will you be able to reach, $5 million in 10 years if that's what you think your goal is? Is it relevant? Is it something that's pertinent to you? We always, go to dinner parties and people will talk about their investments, their goals, but how relevant is that actually to you? And finally, timely. Is this something that you can achieve in a certain deadline or in a certain time frame? Second of all, it's really important to understand your relationship with money. As a financial planner, I've had experience working with many different clients. And really what I find is successful clients understand their relationship with money. What is that going to do for me? Oftentimes, the most successful clients are not the ones that go and purchase the largest houses or have the nicest cars. They're the ones who understand ultimately what their wealth needs to do for them. It needs to be able to provide for them in their old age so that they're not dependent on anyone else. It needs to ensure that their children will be educated so that they can continue on to perpetuate a positive legacy. And it needs to be something so that they can continue to give back. Even when they're not earning, that they can continue to fulfill their zakah obligations, they can continue to contribute to their communities. So again, to do that, it's important, again, to see money not as an end, and also to eliminate anything that's unnecessary. So really going back and again and really making sure, what are you spending on? Is it really necessary? Is it going to help you meet those goals? And then investing first. So thinking of yourself first, especially when it comes to things like retirement. Oftentimes we'll think, well, I'll start saving later when I'm making more. Right now I have the burden of my young children. Later on, I'll have more free, flexible amount of money that I can put into my retirement account. But it's extremely important to start investing first and then spend what's left. And finally, also getting rid of debt. I tell my clients debt is a negative rate of return. You might think, well, I have so much left on my payment, maybe my car payment, my house payment. It's 4%. Do you want to have negative 4% earnings? Your debt is a negative rate of return. So eliminate your debt as soon as possible. And of course, that's also helping you eliminate riba from your transactions. And third, an important point is, of course, using your time. Brother gave a great example of how waiting 10 years is going to cause you to have to actually save more. So investing is not just how much the return is year to year. An important variable is time. So if you, for example, start out investing at age 20 and you put in $3,000 a year, it grows at 6%, very reasonable rate of return, you would have almost $700,000 by the time you're 65. Now, if you wait until you're 35, that money will only accumulate to about $250,000. And if you wait till age 45, it's only accumulating to about $120,000. So again, think of this kind of like driving. If it took you an hour to drive here and you knew that it was 60 miles away, then you would say, I can drive 60 miles an hour. Now, let's say you were 20 minutes late. In that case, you now had to drive 90 miles an hour to make it at the same time. Same thing with investing. Be careful how long you have until you meet your goal. If you wait, it definitely can become more riskier. And of course, whenever you enter into the stock market or investing, there are going to be ups and downs. So you have to really plan for that. The market is not always going to go up. It's not always going to go down. You have to take it like a long road trip. You have to know that there may be obstacles in the way, there may be traffic, and you have to make sure that you pick a plan that you're not going to bail out on. Because whenever you set up a plan, you're setting it up for the long term. If you start out with a plan that you think looks great, but in the long run, you're not able to handle the volatility or the risk involved, the downside potential loss, then you could make some critical mistakes. For example, selling whenever the market is down, or waiting until the market is too high. So really understanding your risk tolerance and your risk capacity are key factors whenever you're going to invest. And my final point today is really taking responsibility of your wealth. Taking a look and assessing what is your barakah risk. Yes, there are multiple options out there for you. There are some that are going to definitely look more attractive. They may be less expensive. They may have higher return. They may offer you diversification in areas that a halal investment does not. But ultimately, what does that do to your barakah risk? Also, of course, taking a look and saying, okay, do my investments follow my values? And by values, of course, we're talking about Islamic values. Are we avoiding riba? But also, are they contributing to a productive and positive part of our economy? Ultimately, as Muslims, that is our goal. When it comes to our charity, are we ensuring that we're paying the correct zakah on our assets? Are we paying correct purification? So when it comes to investing, there may be even an insignificant amount of revenue which we may not be able to screen out. Organizations like AYOFI issue standards for Islamic finance, which provide us guidelines on how to screen investments to ensure that they're halal. But even with that, because of limitations within screening process, there may be an insignificant amount of revenue which you cannot screen out. And you have to purify that. If you do not, there may be that insignificant amount of revenue which is haram, which may stay in your portfolio. So really being very careful about your zakah and your purification. And finally, really raising our voices and demanding solutions. As our brother was saying, these solutions didn't exist 30, 40 years ago. Now, because we are understanding, we are educating ourselves, we are asking for solutions, and we need more solutions. We need solutions when it comes to, for example, the insurance industry. We need takaful solutions. We need everyone to go to their life insurance agent and say, I can't purchase a conventional life insurance. My family needs to be protected. I want you to figure out how we can have a takaful solution, which is going to meet the Islamic guidelines. And then another way that we can also create awareness is through our shareholder advocacy. So this is something that we at Azad do. We actually engage in companies who, again, may pass the Islamic guidelines, but again, they're maybe involved in areas that we feel are unethical or they have room for improvement. So an example is Chevron. Chevron actually was doing work with the Burmese government while the government was still, again, involved in the genocide of the Rohingya minority Muslims. So we went to Chevron and we said, this is an unethical area. This is not political activism. This is shareholder activism. You, as the stock owner, have ownership in that asset, and you can actually go to the companies and tell them, we want to see change. And so, alhamdulillah, we were able to have Chevron realize their role, and actually they have now bringing in resources to actually help the minority Muslim community there. Same thing is going on with other companies like Google, like Alphabet. They were creating search engines to censor communities in China. And we know what human rights violations that's causing. They also were a part of communication blackouts in Kashmir. So our money can speak volumes. Of course, we need it to make sure that it takes care of us, but it also is a source of empowerment. And as a community, we really have to understand, again, what does money mean for us and how can we use it for the betterment of our community? Thank you.
Today.